Yo guys, right, this is my first track breakdown, so take it easy on me. Comment what you want, or say it's shit, or even do it again, or don't do it again. Either way. Currently, I have my mic sat on some sponge, because we're off to a great start. My mic stand broke. So that's good. Anyway, so this is my track Wandering Heart that I did with Jordan Grace that we released on Armada, or A Sound of Trance, whichever way you want to call it. So I'm just going to go straight into it. We don't need this. I'm going to get rid of that because that was me testing the mic before. Right, so best thing I can say is you obviously need a solid kick drum, and I see everyone trying to work on compression and saturation and all that, blah, 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 blah. I don't do anything special except find a good kick, and on this occasion, well, I put it in mono. Most kicks are in mono, but that's just a double check. I just tamed the top of the kick because, well, it was too clicky. So here's with and without. With very, very subtle, but in the mix. Obviously, I haven't played it yet, so that's a good start. Let's play the actual track. Let's drop one, then we have a big breakdown, and then drop two is a little bit of variance. Got a feeling I'm going to record this and YouTube will strike it down for copyright for Mark Roma having a Mark Roma track in his YouTube channel. How dare he? Anyway, yeah, best thing you can do with kicks, don't fuck about with EQing. Well, it's a little bit of EQ, compression, saturation, everything. Don't bother. If you can find a solid kick sample, use it. I usually set mine to about somewhere between -7, -9ish, depending. I'd put it on the lower, sort of -9, -10 if you're sending it off for mastering, but I master my own stuff, so I haven't actually needed to do so. So yeah, solid kick as the foundation, and then the bass is literally just I think it's just a sine wave from Serum. Oh, it's the sub bass 1. So if you go on digital, sub bass 1, it's basically a sine wave, but it's a bit squiggly because it's slightly distorted. And then all I did was a little bit of saturation. That is just a Ableton saturation preset. Sounded good, so I used it. There's nothing wrong with using presets. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. The reason this is muted now is because well, I'll get to that in a bit, but I'll just solo the bass. So there's a tiny bit of compression, and then EQ is just simply rolling off this high end, because if you listen here, there's grittiness there, but the lead is quite a big lead, so I just EQ'd it down, so it's just a simple sub bass. Anyway, that is just doing, so utility was just automating the volume down in the breakdown, which I usually do. If anything is in the drop, I'll automate it down about a decibel or two in the breakdown, so you get that contrast in volume, so that your breakdowns are never as loud as the drop. You want your drop to be the loudest part of the track. It'll still be loud, -2.3 decibels down. It's not going to make much difference, but it does. So when I was listening to the bass, even though the notes are literally just playing when the kick isn't, I thought it's still clashing just a little bit. So all I did was bounce it to audio, and then at the end of each little bit of the sub, I did a fade, because I think without this, there's still the tiniest little bit of frequency. So even though the LFO tool's kicking, sidechaining out the way, I thought I'd get a much better result by just doing that tiny, tiny, tiny short fade. And then the kick and bass is zero interference, and you can get the sub super loud. Nothing's interacting. A good way to see it. a lot of people will say you've got to, they'll do something ridiculous like, where's an EQ? They'll say, you know, if you boost your sub at this frequency, you've got to put it on the kick and then reverse it so that they don't clash. But you don't need to do that if they're not clashing, if they're not playing at all. Because I even did a fade on the kick, super clean sub. One stops while the other's starting. Don't need to EQ or faff about of anything. It's just a solid kick and sub. Anyway, the lead, we'll just move down in order of stuff that I've made stuff. The lead is basically some wizardry stuff. So I'll just simplify it as best I can. So this one is, I separated the mids and the sides, and the only way I did that, so on the mid one, I just put a fab filter and cut out all the sides. And then on the side one, I did the exact same, except I cut out all the mids. But I only did that at the end. So what I did was I got the lead, which is, I think it's a Dub Vision one. Yeah, it's a Dub Vision. Some Dub Vision, I mean, it's very, very simple. It's a sawtooth with 4 voices, and then this one's got 8. There's anything going on, a little bit of distortion, multi-band compression. But the main thing is the processing. So I think I've tamed a bit of highs there. The reverb, I'm just going to solo just this one on its own. The reverb is very, oh, and I'll get round to this utility gain. So basically, this is this duplicated. So this second one, except it's got a little bit of extra sort of weird stuff going on. So that's Mondo Mod from Waves. Makes it go a little bit crazy, but this channel only comes in for that amount of time, and then it flicks back to this one. So if I played this, you can hear it goes silent, and this only plays obviously together. It flicks to this one because there's tiniest little bit of modulation going on, and I think the phaser kicks in there as well. Yeah, so the phaser kicks in so that every time, hold on, this inverts, every time this comes in, it's a slightly different sort of texture of the sound, just to add interest. So this one here is this one duplicated, only comes in at a certain time, and then the whole of this one is duplicated there, and that's when I split the sides and the mids up. There's the wizardry stuff, but basically once I've did this, it's just a case of duplicating. The other 3 are basically the same. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. The reverb, instead of just putting a reverb on the channel itself, I like to sidechain it so that when the notes are playing, it ducks the reverb out the way, which you'll see on these long notes. So in those small gaps, the reverb comes back up to fill the space, basically. Back up. It's just a way of keeping the sound super clean, but then, so without it, you can hear it with and without the reverb, but then without the compressor, bit muddy. And then I've done the exact same with a delay. So the delay is just it's just an 1/8 delay, ping pong. And then the next one is a bit of OTT. It's not much, it's only 43%. Nothing special going on. EQ. Because it's quite heavy on the white noise at the top, so I've tamed a bit there, but then also boosted the mids just a little bit, just to bring the power back up. And I think that's just a tiny bit of automation, not automation, sorry, dynamic EQing, just to tame the muddiness. And then this reverb here only comes in towards the end and in the build up, so it's like a washout sound. So if you watch here, this reverb and this filter, is it the phaser coming in as well? So yeah, reverb, filter, phaser, and the gain all working at once, and obviously the kick starts automated to come off as it comes up. So that's given the sort of effect that you'd get from Endless Smile, but when I put Endless Smile on, it wasn't really getting the effect that I wanted, so I just manually did it. Anyway, so this one is the exact same, it's just duplicated. And then as a whole, I think I've done some more processing. Yes, I have. It's just some more EQ. It was really harsh on the sides of the high end. That's actually a tremolo effect. I'll turn that off. So you can't even hear that. It's doesn't sound great. This was actually another preset. I was flicking through all the presets on Pro MB because I only recently got it, and this one sounded good, so I used it. Then, this is a good way to clean up your leads, obviously, because I keep saying it's quite harsh in the high end. When the hat comes in, it's quite a harsh sounding hat. I use track spacer to just duck the top end out the way, so the hat punches through each time it's coming through, because without it's just sounding a little bit harsh. This one's actually blank. I don't know why that's on there. Oh, and that's the side filter. So yeah, the final thing on the chain was just ducking the lead out the way of the hat. Makes it nice and clean. And then I've probably done even more. Yes, I have. So there's the lead as a whole with the sides in as well. Because what I did was the sides, it was really, really loud. So we'll put it to the same volume. It was just a bit too much on the sides, so I knocked it down about 3 decibels. So when you put the track in mono, it's still, all the attention's still in the, coming down the center, where all the powerful elements are: kick, sub, lead, everything's punching through. But obviously when you put it back into stereo, you've still got the stereo information there, just not as overwhelming. That was yet more boosted on the mids, because I just felt like it was still lacking a bit. No, hold on, that's not the wrong, there we go, right. So the final bit of processing was again taming the highs, because it's just sizzly noise. And the track spacer, what's this ducking? Oh, this is ducking out the way of the vocals, which don't come in till the second drop, but basically similar sort of situation. In fact, I'll show you here. I'll solo the vocals and lead. I've been chasing your love, I've been chasing your love, I've been chasing your home. Track space is actually really good, considering it's only 30, 40 quid, something like that. I've been chasing your love. Ducks it out the way, makes it nice and clean. This is actually probably, bar the crazy processing on the lead, it's actually the simplest track I've made. I usually have loads of layers for leads and stuff, but this lead, you can technically call it just one with a bit of processing. Lead, bass, and kick. So if I solo those three, that's the majority of the track. The rest, so the effects, or what I like to call ear candy, is all just odd noises, claps, white noises, everything that sort of fills in all the gaps. So if I solo those, it's nothing you haven't heard before. What's this one? That's just a crash. This is a big clap. Yeah. Is there anything special? No. Risers. I'm not going to go into each one of these. It's, you know, I like this clap, so I just let it come in every now and then. That impact and that one, they go nicely together. It's a bit of white noise and like a crash cymbal. That's it really. There's nothing special going on there. It's just a case of sampling. The only thing I have added in, so this vocal pad. What I like to do with these is one, put a tremolo effect on, which I can't remember where I've done it. So there's a bit of reverb. Is it the auto pan? Ah, yeah. So I use the auto pan for a bit of reverb. If you put the phase on 360, which basically just means full, you get, so without it, and then with, you get like a panning effect. And if you only put the amount on 70, it doesn't completely go away when it reaches. It's like a fast LFO tool, so it doesn't really fully go away. But I like the effect. EQ, that was just taming the lows. There's another one. Yeah, it's a little bit of boosting. Auto filter does what it does. There's nothing complicated there. However, the one thing that I do like to do is I automated the format on the little Alter Boy plugin from Soundtoys. It's just a way of morphing. You use it a lot on vocals, but this was a vocal pad, so I thought I'd automate it. So here it sounds high. I'm just going crazy. I need someone, and as it goes, it goes back to key. So it's a way of keeping it in key, without pitching it. If I use this, it would go out of key, but format changes it. It makes it sound like it's pitching up and down, but it's not, because it stays in key. And then here at the end of the break, format it down, because what I did is, I'll get to the breakdown in a bit, but basically I recorded the tail end of the breakdown with a big reverb, which is just this. So without these effects, so that's just the breakdown. I processed it as it was and just put, I took it off, but I put like a Valhalla, and then I put like a really long reverb preset on there and recorded it to audio. But then what I did was, because I was pitching the format of the vocal down, I did the same on the resampled reverb tail end of the break. Sounds a bit complicated, but basically it pitches down. While at the same time a Valhalla reverb is reverbing the reverb. Which you get a washout effect. And I did the same with the bass, I think. So the Reese bass, which I haven't shown you yet, sorry. So the Reese bass is, I'll get round to the processing, but here at the end, pitched it down. Pitched it down with some crazy automation on the filter. So you get this sort of effect. I'm not going to play it too long in case I get a YouTube strike, which I really do not want. Again, with the sub bass in the break, I just bounced it to audio, so it's nice and clean. Uses less CPU as well, because at the minute my fan on my laptop is going crazy, and I'm hoping that the filter on the mic is working its magic. So the Reese bass, that has quite a lot of processing. So it's another Dub Vision one, I think, but it's just literally the Sawtooth with 3 voices. So I'll just solo it. So without. One is pitched down lower, so you get that crunchy sound. Saturn 2. What are we on? 80% drive. I think that was just the standard setting. I brought the width down on the mono, because without, if you hear the difference, too much information on the sides when I've got pads and vocals and everything going on. You just need to think of the your track of everything having its space. Basses tend to come more central, not fully central. If I put this in mono, probably wouldn't sound quite as good. Basses, kick, everything is down the center, and then the vocals, they sit mostly mono, but with like a bit of reverb and delay. Leads sit a bit higher and out to the side, and then hats. So just think of it as, I like to think of it as an orchestra. Bass heavy elements down in the center, feels like it's closer to you, and then everything goes outwards. You can sort of picture it in your head where everything is. Tends to help me when I'm processing stuff. This is actually my own preset that I made for the C4 from Waves. Feel free to screenshot there. It's just a good way of balancing pretty much anything. You could put it on a lead or a bus or even the master. Gives it a nice balancing effect. EQ and then some EQ. I think that was mostly just taming the mids on that one. Same again on that one. There's nothing special. And that filter. Just getting rid of the sort of sparkly high end, because obviously we don't want it clashing with the vocals and the pads and stuff. This filter is just doing the weird crazy stuff at the end. There's nothing special going on there. Pitch going down. And then just to be safe, I put the track spacer to come in when the vocals are playing. Where's it gone? There. So that's the respace. It's really solid. Breakdown wise, there's just different sounds doing different things. So the first thing that comes in is this pad. Nothing overcomplicated. And all that's happening is the filter's opening up so that when it kicks in here, it's all open. But I wanted when it comes to the main part of the break, you'll see here that initially it was central, and then when it gets to the break, I've panned it slightly to the right because I have one that's panned over to the left. It's just another way of opening up the main part of the breakdown. So I'll play both at the same time from about here. So central, the other one comes in, a bit louder, bit of a texture. One's panned left, one's panned right. Easy way of opening up the break. This is Professor stuff. The main part of the break is this sort of ravey sound. So it sounds like it's only playing notes every now and then, but it's constantly playing like an arpeggiator. It's just the lower notes don't sound as pronounced when everything's playing, which I'll play in a bit. But this is just playing a layer. Hold on. So it's the same but different. So together. So the lead sort of sounds like it's just going in and out, but it's constantly playing, so you still got the energy carried forward. That's it. It's nothing overcomplicated. That's the breakdown. That's the main one. That's a layer, and those chords are just duplicated. One's pan left, one's pan right, and that's it. The vocals, got to give it to Jordan, who knows what he's doing. All I've done here is do a little bit of volume automation, I think. So that bit's a little. So if you look down here, there's the gain. So that required tiny little boost as it went along. That one required a bit of a boost. There's up to 8, and that's 10. So I think as everything's coming in, the pads, the bass, everything's come up. I just wanted it sort of looking a bit more cohesive. just makes things easier. And then the rest is just ad-libs, I think. Backing vocals.
Why you keep on falling, falling out of my head?
Can't fault Jordan for his vocals. He, as long as if you find a vocalist, get them to record quality vocals, and it saves you a massive job of fixing it. Basically, after that is just simple processing. So, I mean, that compressor's there. It's not actually doing much. So it's just fast attack, fast release. It's just the catch peaks preset on Ableton. Just to literally anything that spikes just a little bit too loud, just knocks it down. The CLA is just there. It's actually compressing quite a lot, but to my ear it sounded quite good. That's just EQing out a tiny bit of tiny frequency that wasn't sounding great. Saturation, subtle, it's only 50%. This Melda plugin's actually really good. If you go to Melda, they have a whole bundle that's free, and there's dozens of plugins in there. I use them all the time, but the saturation is really good. And then I just did the same sidechain and the reverb and delay trick that I did on the lead. I'm not going to explain it again. You can just go back to look. And then for vocals, I find a tiny boost at around the 1 to 2K area just lifts them out of the mix. And then I've done so this Vitamin's like a sort of, it's like a bit of an enhancer. It's not like a saturation or EQ. It just, well, I'll A-B it, so without. Sounds okay. And then that just really sort of opens up the high end, gives it a bit of air. And then the limiter, that's just to make sure nothing is peaking on the master. There's nothing wrong with using a limiter on a bus. Saves the limiter on your master doing anything. Or if people were to send it to me for mastering, saves me trying to do anything sort of sharp before giving it the final master. But that is it. Just getting the right balance of the kick, the bass and the lead, you've got the bulk of the track. Hats, I think there's a, yeah, I'll explain the hats. So the hat there is a bit of a techno hat from the Dub Vision 7, 8, 9, 10 pack. This one, Simple Ride, Snare Energy. I actually made this myself when I made Pleasure or Pain. It was my way of giving it more energy. I actually heard it in one of Morton's tracks really low down in the background, and I thought, that's how you get that energy. It's like a rolling snare thing. So I basically made it myself in a project from a couple of years ago, and I've just kept it as a sample. And I just do a little bit of LFO tool. Pro tip: if you duck any percussion that tiniest little bit, it'll avoid clashing with the kick, but it doesn't completely destroy the sound. So to the point where the first snare of every 4 is ducking completely out the way. That's just something that I learned from Sick Individuals, actually. And then that's just a clap. So altogether, there's nothing crazy going on. There's EQ on the snare. There's actually nothing on the clap. There's nothing on the ride. Probably the short LFO, and then nothing on the hat. The main thing is this API. I really like the preset from Lily White, which is the ambience masher. It basically destroys it, but I bring the threshold way down, so it's not compressing as much, because I think on the preset it basically compresses the fuck out of it. You're hitting like -12, -24. So I aim to be sort of between the 3 and the 6. and then it's only reducing, I only needed about 1.9 gain. So the hat's actually quite loud. The hat's too loud and the clap's a little bit too quiet, but putting this on, so AB, all makes it sort of cohesive, so everything's similar sort of volume. That was just a bit of EQ just to make sure nothing was clashing with the bass. And then Kramer tape was again just a, I think it was just a saturation preset somewhere. Oh, the mastering. So the mastering big and open. I just thought it sounded nice. I probably didn't need it. It actually dulls it a bit, but the lead's so bright, it doesn't matter because you get that sizzle from the lead taking over. But yeah, apart from that, it's just a case of getting everything the right volume. Obviously, it sounds good because, you know, the kick was a good sample, and apart from the tiniest little bit of EQ on the top end, I always recommend getting the right sample and the right sound before you touch any EQs, any saturations, no compressors, nothing. I actually barely ever compress. All these buses, the breakdown has no compression. There's a bit of EQ. Most of the compression will go on the bus, which I'm actually struggling to find any compressor at all. Oh, there you go. So on the lead, there was a tiny bit of multiband. That's it. I just balanced it out. I find you get a much better result when you get to doing the mastering. So I think I've done some multiband as well. That was again just a preset. There's just a little bit of control. Have I adjusted anything? Nope, it's a full. So that just leveled it out. Vitamin again. I just wanted to boost the low end a little bit and the high end not so much. Obviously you'll hear it on the main master. This was an expensive plugin that I never actually use, and it's disabled because I haven't got my Apollo plugged in, and it's not actually doing anything, but when it is plugged in and this is on, it just gives a nice analog feel to it. I haven't actually boosted the highs or lows or anything, but I just found it had a good effect. Then it was just Ozone, again boosted the mids because it's very low. The track was very subby, very high end, so the mids just needed a little boost. Dynamic EQ was mostly here. The imager didn't really need much because I controlled all the mids, the sides on the lead itself, so it only did just a little bit of boosting. Notice how when it's in mono, sounds basically the same when it goes back into stereo, and that EQ is actually doing nothing. I think the main bit of my little pro tip mid control preset is what I like to do. So attack 80, ignore this top bit, I put the parallel at 50, auto gain on, and then we do attack at 80, release half, so 40, and we only have this mid band, and it makes the mids really punchy, and I compress to the point where I'm getting about 1 or 2 decibels. Screenshot it, steal it, use it on your own, do whatever you need to do. Anyway, with and without. It just glues the mids together really well. And then after that, I don't think this was actually on. The limiter was on, it's just super loud for this demo. It's just the standard setting, and I just put the gain up to 6.5. Until I was hitting, well, it's not hitting that now, but usually I aim for about -8 on the RMS, and that's more than loud enough. It's loud enough to be played in clubs. and also not too loud to the point that when Spotify and everything turns it down in volume, it doesn't sound too distorted. That's it. This is basically the exact same, except I've got the intro. That's it. What I'd like to do is do the radio edit first, and once that's locked in, because that'll be the one that I send to a label, pro tip for any beginners, send the radio edit so it goes straight to the point, and the A&R doesn't have to listen to a 30-second or 1 minute intro. They just want to hear the song, so go straight into it. For example, straight into the first drop, and they'll go, oh, they'll decide whether they like it in about 5 to 10 seconds, some even 2 to 3 seconds. Anyway, then I'll just copy and paste it, and then just add a simple intro and outro. Really basic, but that is a pro tip for saving time on your extended edits and radio edits. So I hope that was okay. That was my first tutorial that I've done. We'll see if YouTube flags it and makes parts of it go silent. I tried to make it as simple as possible, so that everything could sound big and have its own space, like the lead. And even then, the lead gets ducked out the way when the vocals come in, for example here. Kick is a really solid kick, but as I was saying before, you can process the hell out of everything, but if something is too loud, then it's just too loud. There's no amount of compression or EQ that will fix that, or if it's too quiet, same thing. The 85% of any track is just how loud everything is. I could probably get away with a lot less processing, just by, well, I'd get 85% of this track done with no processing, just by getting the volumes right. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. That's how you make a track like this ultra rave style that I'm pushing. Got a new track coming out next week. Similar sort of style, but a lot more sort of electro big room style. I could do a breakdown of that if you want me to. Comment it. I'm one of those guys. I don't want to be one of those guys. You can drop a comment if you like. You should drop a comment. Anyway, I may do these again in future. I hope it helped. It's really, tracks can be simple or hard, but don't be making tracks with 180 channels. You just don't need it. This would have a lot less if I didn't have a channel for each individual crash and clap and riser. So yeah, anyway, until next time.